Hello and welcome to our next episode of the POMA podcast. I hope you enjoyed last episode that we had, and I'm joined tonight by my fellow leadership team, our immediate past president, Jean Battistella, our president-elect, Lisa Witherite-Reeg, and our vice president, John Collada. Lisa, you head up our education pillar, and one of the things that John mentioned is that you're never too old to learn. So can you just talk a little bit about some of the educational opportunities that we have for our physicians that you head up?
I sure can. So right now we're actually in the second strategic plan, and the education pillar champion before me was actually Joan Grzybowski. And I do want to give a shout out. You notice we have three gentlemen and myself here on the screen, and a lot of our leaders are women. However, we haven't had that many female presidents. It's changing. And, as we look around our boardroom table, seeing younger people with children and different needs that I had when I started practice 25 years ago, different needs than what John has. And certainly POMA adapts to those things, and we do that with our educational programs. So I have two committees that I work closely with. One is the Clinical Assembly Committee, and the other is the Curriculum Committee. And I want to talk a little bit about the Curriculum Committee, and then we'll double back and talk about the Clinical Assembly Committee at some point. The Curriculum Committee actually started out as a task force, as has many of the committees at POMA started out as task force, and it had a specific job to do. And that job was reviewing educational programs that POMA produced to make sure there wasn't bias in the program. Well, we found as we expanded our programs, and anybody who has attended POMA Clinical Assembly District 8 Symposium or the Family Practice Society program in the summertime, all of which POMA produces, can agree that it is outstanding education. So our curriculum committee not only reviews for bias, but we also have input as to needs assessment. What type of programs does POMA need? What type of programs do our members need to maintain their licensure, to expand their knowledge, to learn about new things like pandemic response, like physician wellness, that is so important to us right now. But all of those things, patient safety credits, the required opioid education, the required child abuse education, POMA offers all of that. In fact, POMA produces over 75 Category 1A AOA credit programs every year. And we are now ACCME certified as well. So what that means is if you are an osteopathic physician, but you are board certified under an allopathic board, the programming that POMA provides for you is acknowledged by your board certification.
That's fantastic. That's a huge achievement for POMA. We've certainly had a lot of accomplishments, and that's one big one. Some of our other accomplishments have been in the advocacy role, which Jean Battistella heads up. Jean, do you want to talk about some of that?
Absolutely. The advocacy or the influence pillar, really we're the representation of our members in Harrisburg and throughout the state. We're there to try to focus on all issues that are important to our members and ultimately for our patients. You've seen much of it this past year. I mean, some of the big things we've gone through were with the pandemic. We've had immunizations, trying to make sure we can get immunizations to our patients and to our physicians to be able to deliver those to the patients. The governor decided on his own early on in the pandemic that he was just going to take care of it himself. But through advocacy efforts of the POMA and our committees, the Government Affairs Committee, myself meeting with leaders of the state, they were able to at one point during the pandemic finally to say, hey, the physicians are going to be our best advocates to get vaccines into the arms of patients because they trust us. Who are they going to trust? Your pharmacist, some drive-in box down a clinic down the street, or a doctor they've been seeing for 10, 20, or 30 years. So that's certainly one of them. But yeah, we're very fortunate in Pennsylvania. We have a strong advocacy effort. Our Vice President of Public Policy and Association Affairs, Andy Sandusky, is certainly a very, very strong advocate, and he certainly helps us out, as well as our contract lobbyists, Milron and Goodman. We have Andy Goodman and Catherine O'Connor, who've been working for us the last several years, and they certainly have a presence on the Hill, and they represent our interests on the Hill, and there are ears and boots on the ground in Harrisburg. And certainly, if there's something coming up, we've become somewhat of a known commodity on the Hill in Harrisburg. So legislators are actually coming to our lobbyists and POMA now, asking for opinions on various issues as they come up. They want to know our input because, whether they know it or not, they realize, I think at this point, that they're not physicians, so they don't know everything medical. So they're coming to us for our valued opinion, and we certainly are happy to provide that. Scope creep has been one of our biggest issues, as you all are aware of the last several years. The CRMPs, everyone's trying to practice above their scope of practice. And we've certainly been a huge advocate for our profession and our patients and our physicians in that regard, and we'll continue to do that. And whether it be the CRMPs, the PAs, we certainly have interests of our physicians and our members at the forefront. I mean, the list is just, it's amazing. The Government Affairs Committee led by Hans Zuckerman meets monthly with our legislative consultants and our vice president, and has a very strong committee. And it's just amazing the things that come up just all the time. I mean, there's every month there's multitude of new legislative issues coming up that, we're just running from one fire to another. And certainly, we're happy to do that, but we've also become a proponent going forward where we're trying to head things off at the pass, where we're actually, we've come up with the Public Policy Task Force previously, which is now a committee staff led by Joan Grzybowski. We've come up with a compendium of issues that POMA has a stance on. So if something does come up on Harrisburg, some legislative issue, they can go to this compendium, and it continues to grow, and it will continue to grow through time. They can say, well, here's POMA's stance on X, Y, or Z. So they don't have to necessarily to have a sudden meeting of the committee and say, oh, what do you guys think about this? Many times we still do have to do that, but it's good to know we have that background where they can say, okay, POMA has this policy on this particular matter, and here's our stance. So I think that's been huge. And we just hope that this continues to grow and get stronger as we continue to represent our members across the state.
Yeah, that's been great. We've definitely gone to more of an being on offense rather than playing defense all the time, which has been a great thing for us to do. So, and you mentioned our staff, Andy, and we'll be hearing from them a little bit, because certainly we're the physician leaders of this organization, but I think we can all agree that we wouldn't be able to drive this bus without the assistance of our staff people. So, John, we talked a little bit before about what we do for residents, and I think one of the highlights of that is our wellness grant program that you would oversee as the chair of the community pillar. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So one of our task forces in the community pillar, it's the wellness, I think, committee. And that's a committee that really emphasizes activities that promotes physician wellness. And one of our main things that we've been doing over the last couple of years is accepting proposals for grants from residency programs across the state on various wellness activities that those residency programs might come up with. Generally, they're resident driven, and they're activities meant to take some of the burden and the stress off of residents as they're going through their training. And the residents, that process for this year concluded. The committee met, and we voted. I think we granted, or we're going to recommend to the foundation that I think 22 different programs get grants to help fund their wellness programs. Things from escape rooms to cooking activities to starting a wellness garden to yoga activities, all sorts of things like that. Sports days within the residency programs, things that will promote community wellness and getting the residents' mind off the day-to-day stresses and sometimes drudgery of training. It's neat to see what these residents come up with, and it's nice to be able to support them. And the only thing that we've said was if it's alcohol related or dangerous, then we wouldn't really approve that. So I think Axe got
Axed.
nixed. That got nixed, and I think anything that had to do with drinking got nixed too, and certainly axe throwing while you're drinking, that was nixed as well. So all of that, all of those activities have been looked at by the various committee members, and actually they don't just get rubber stamped. We discuss them. The members are quite engaged in looking to see if they're worthwhile, if they affect enough DOs within a program. And then generally we'll approve them for the money that they request, up to $500 a program, which is not nothing. And I know the residents are very, very grateful. They're very, very grateful for that. It's needed. We hope to maybe expand some of our activities to the practicing physician, because we certainly need that as well. But that's been our main focus of that committee over the last year or so.
So that whole program started a few years back under the direction of past President Pamela Goldman. And I was very blessed to work with her on a wellness task force, which is now a committee. And a couple of the other things that came out of that, including the resident wellness grant, was the column in our newsletter, How Are You Doing? Where we invite physicians in training, practicing physicians, retirees to write a 300 to 450 word commentary on wellness and what you do to help maintain your wellness. And I'm just going to put a shout out and let Joe talk about the rest of the publications. But if you're interested in writing and you like to write, we would love to see your contributions to the How Are You Doing column.
Absolutely. And I think, that highlights the important point of how this setup allows us to work so well together, because so much of what we do can overlap so many pillars. And sometimes I think the toughest job we have is figuring out, well, who does this really fall to? Not that we leave, not that we leave any of our leaders standing on their own, but how can we work together and make things, certainly the communications and education overlaps a lot. We've got a lot of communications going out. As I talked about in the first episode, this podcast series that is new in 2022 has been, the crowning achievement, I would say, of the communications pillar this year. And we're really excited for what it's been so far, what it is today, and what it's going to be over the next few months and years. But we do publish a newsletter every month that comes out on the third Friday of every month, and just lets you know about things that are going on in POMA that you might not have heard about, gives perspectives from students, residents, other physicians. The president usually writes a column, and from some of our staff members, including what's going on in the legislative world and the advocacy world. So that's one of our big ways that we communicate with our members. And yes, we're always looking for people to write. We have the How Are You Doing column, which Lisa mentioned. We've gotten great contributions to that. Everything from, talking about rock climbing to why you do this job, to even students that have written about their experience with match day. So there's been, a lot of variety with that, and that's been a great asset to our newsletter, which has become more vibrant over the last several years. We also feature columns on DOs doing more, which is one of the things that talks about what do you do, maybe as a physician or not as a physician, but outside of your practice life, mission trips, going and doing other kinds of charity work, or what are some of your hobbies? So that's another column that appears in there. We have physicians who write another opinion column, which is sometimes it talks about the frustrations that you've faced or other opinions, but it's always entertaining in a very good way. And I think captures well the feelings that some of us have in medicine. So those are some of the highlights of our newsletter. We also have the Under the Dome, DOME, which talks about the political work that's been done by POMA, that comes out on the first Friday of every month, and references the Capitol Dome in Harrisburg. And then over the last 2 years almost now, we've had a at one point it was weekly. Now it's a bi-weekly column on COVID updates to help physicians, help our members and other physicians stay on top of what's going on, highlights that they might have missed or new guidelines that might have come out, so that captures that. So those are some of the regular publications that we have. And as I said, this will be kind of the fourth publication that'll be coming out on a regular basis for our physicians to enjoy. So there's others too. The journal, which is undergoing some transitions to keep that fresh and exciting. And we've highlighted our student writers in that with the Golden Quill Awards, and research papers, and hearing from our deans of our medical schools, students from our medical schools. So there's certainly no shortage of publications. The other thing in communications that I'm really proud of is that we have the POMA app. And that's something that we worked hard to get set up with our first strategic plan. And that's really nice. They're a really nice tool that you have right on your cell phone with the touch of a button on your phone. You can be looking at your membership status. You can pay your dues, which we love that you do. You can see what's going on in the advocacy world, what's going on with your own district, who your leadership is. As was pointed out to me, you can see your AOA number, which until you've done this for a while, you might not remember and need to look up. Serves as a convenient mechanism for that. You can communicate with other members. And even when we have our educational program talking about the clinical assembly, Lisa, you can follow on the app with the program, see who the speakers are, the lineup. So that's been a great tool. You mentioned the clinical assembly committee before, Lisa. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
I do. Our clinical assembly committee and all of the education committees that plan our major programs really do just a massive amount of work. And our clinical assembly committee, the educational portion, is headed by Dr. Ken Veit, and the overall program committee is headed by Tony DeMarco. And they do such a wonderful job putting together just a top-notch educational program that serves the needs of the members. You know, COVID has affected us in so many ways, and this pandemic really has caused a lot of strain on organizations. But what we have found in the educational world is necessity is the mother of invention. And having this problem of a pandemic has actually catapulted us into the ability to offer high quality virtual education, figure out how to make it category 1A so it meets the needs of our members, as well as keep everybody safe. So, you know, we've done that very well over the past, year and a half. Now we're working on how can we use what we learned, putting together these virtual conferences, and get us back into some in-person interaction for those that are comfortable doing that. And we call that a hybrid program. And what we're going to see over the next couple months, and Dr. Battistella can talk about this, is a hybrid program for our District 8 conference. And then again in the springtime, a hybrid program put together by our clinical assembly committee for our annual clinical assembly.
Very true, Lisa. And it certainly has been a mother of invention, how you get through this pandemic. I mean, when you think back a year and a half ago, transitioning Pam's presidency and Gold's presidency into mine, and the POMA staff was amazing. Within the time of 5 weeks, the clinical assembly went from a live in-person event when everything was shut down to a virtual event that went phenomenally. I mean, we had similar attendance to previously. I mean, the content was fantastic. The interactions were great. And still be able to provide that for our members, and still having somewhat of that camaraderie, which is what most of us still really miss about the in-person events. And even though the virtual fills the void, we're looking at ourselves on these flat screens, it's still not just the same. So we're working at District 8 for our end of January conference, our annual winter seminar, which will be our 35th this year. They have a hybrid. So it's come with challenges because we're having technology so we can have those who still want to do virtual, because we know there's not going to be going back for just some people. Some people, just the convenience of being able to watch a conference in their own home, not taking time off from work, not time away from family, not spending money on a hotel or travel. That's huge. And we understand that. And certainly, I think we all will use that at some point. But there's still that physical presence that we all like to be, our camaraderie. That's what we look for as osteopathic physicians. That's what makes us different. We're people. So we're working towards that. And as of now, we have our conference ready to roll. We're working through all the logistics with our various providers. It certainly has come with challenges. The POMA staff has been phenomenal. I can't thank Brenda Dill enough. She is just, our POMA staff, everyone on the screen will attest to, they are the backbone of POMA. The things they can get done and that small staff are phenomenal, and we would be nowhere without them. So, run the credits at the end. We need to name all of them. And like Joe said, we're going to have a separate show for them in the future, podcast. I'm an old guy, but hopefully by the time you view this podcast, we'll have already had District 8, maybe even. I'm not sure how the timing's going to work out, but we're really looking forward to that. And we're following all the protocols of NEMICOL in the state, and we're going above and beyond. We realize that we can't just do the minimum. We have to do above and beyond because we're physicians, and we got to keep our members and our public safe, because we need to be able to go back to work after the conference safely and be able to take care of our patients. So that's our first and foremost goal. We realize that and understand that.
Yeah. That's probably the highlight for your district, for District 8, is the conference every year. And we've got a lot of great districts, 13 in all in the state. Actually, Gene, I guess one of the things that you did with your presidency, as we had discussed with that strategic plan, was to put together a district task force, which you asked John to lead, and he's been doing some great things with that. John, can you tell us about where that is right now?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's been fun. It's been enlightening. It's been necessary. Really, we wanted to look at the districts both in terms of our charge was to look at the structure of the districts and to look at how we can better engage our districts, both within the districts and amongst and between the districts. And we've deployed a survey, and we've analyzed some of the data district by district. We're in the process now of analyzing some of the data based on number of years in practice, practice types, to try to get some useful information to be able to present some recommendations to leadership and to the board. Some of the questions on the survey spoke to whether people were comfortable with the current structure as far as geographic regions, how they're organized now. We asked questions about level of engagement. We asked questions about what do you think about virtual programs versus in-person programs. We've asked questions about how the members think their leaders communicate with them. And we hope now to make some recommendations with some input with the District Leadership Council, which is the group that gets together monthly of the district leaders. We hope to make some recommendations then to the leadership and to the board to not only talk about the structure of the districts, but maybe to reinvigorate the districts and ultimately to perhaps lean on strengths of other districts so that maybe districts can pair up and learn from each other and really build on our strengths going forward. There's lots of untapped energy, I think, and there's lots of untapped interest amongst our members that if we can tap into that and grow that, we'll be strong going forward in the future. So that's really where we're at. I'm very proud of the work that we've done because the members on our committee have been very engaged. And I can say that really with all of the committees and task force in the community pillar. It's been very gratifying to see how people really put in the effort, put in the time, they do their homework, and they really produce for their fellow osteopathic physicians in the state. So district task force, I think will come up with some concrete ideas for leadership to chew on and to move forward.
I understand there's a district competition going on too, John.
Yes, that was the brainchild of Jason Leeper on POMA staff, and I can't really speak highly enough about Jason and Sarah from our staff. They've done a wonderful job in supporting all of us and my pillar specifically. But there's district competition going, and I'd encourage anybody listening, if you're a member of your district, the more district engagement that you do, the better it's going to be for your district. They're measuring things like, are meetings occurring? Are you sending full compliments to the House of Delegates? How many events are you having? How many CMEs are you having? And those sorts of things. So the winner, I think, is going to get a big obnoxious trophy that they get to parade around. I don't know if they could engrave their names like the Stanley Cup, and I don't know if you could drink champagne out of it. But my understanding is it's a big trophy that the winning district will be awarded, and I guess it'll be a traveling trophy from year to year, I guess. But that's kind of exciting. So that's just one of the things that I think my pillar is trying to do, and staff is trying to do, encourage ongoing engagement within the districts. And I think that's important, because really, I think the lifeblood and the work of what we do in POMA really occurs at the local level. So the more we can encourage grassroots sorts of things like that, I think it's going to be better for everybody.
Hey, any idea what district's in first place right now?
Is it your district, Lisa? When you talk about wellness activities, your district, you kind of recruited goats. The goat yoga counted as an activity, and I don't know if you can cross species like that, but I think it was very well received, and you did things when you did that. I think the winners of the participants got a voucher to support some of the local farmers, and it was really nice to see that you brought. It wasn't just physicians getting together and doing some things that can make them feel better about themselves and each other, but you support your community that way. That was great. So even though you cheated, I'm proud of you. We're all proud of you, and it's going to make us figure something out in District 7. It'll probably be like a snowman competition or something when the bay freezes over. Yep.
Yeah, snowball fight in Erie. Yeah.
There you go. In July.
No, so we talk about wellness all the time, and all kidding aside, one of the things that I enjoy doing so much is I love baking. And several years ago, I think it was when, who was president? We were in Chicago, George, and we were in Chicago, and we had this wonderful hospitality suite at the AOA House of Delegates, but nobody was utilizing this wonderful space. So it just wasn't a very hospitable area. So during our next board meeting, I made a recommendation that a hospitality task force be named. And of course, everybody laughed. And I said, guys, hear me out. And I pitched my idea. And the following May, I was allowed to kind of orchestrate some fun things like, picking on our current president and our incoming president. We had a Cinco de Mayo evening. We had a cookies and cocktails evening. Just little things like that we are allowed to laugh at ourselves and laugh with each other. And goat yoga was just one of those things.
Yeah, we've done a lot of great things. We've made a great community, and that's some great achievements there. I think we're all sitting here with smiles, which is a great thing. We all work long days, long hours, and this is volunteer work, and because of the fun that we're having with what we're doing, pushing the organization forward with things like goat yoga or hospitality, or even our committees, I think when we can look at them and we're proud of the work that we get done, and can sit here with a smile about the work that we do. So that's a good thing. And I think we'll hear more about this later, but as the sun sets on my presidency over the next few months and rises on Lisa's, you're going to be here. Yes, that's the look I had a year ago. You're going to be hearing her put out a call for volunteers, and And hopefully this is a good demonstration to all the members that are listening that, we do a lot of work and we work hard, but I might sound cliche, but we have a lot of fun doing it, and we're pleased with the work we do. So as you hear that call from Lisa, I'd encourage you all to respond. I've challenged the members over my year, as I think every president has, to find a place for them on a committee. And I have yet to not be able to meet that challenge. Everybody that's requested a position, we found something for you to do. And even when we had all our committees named, we were able to add more people, which is a great thing. So hopefully everybody heard something they really think that they could contribute a lot to. So I think those are the main things that we've done as the leaders of this organization. And one of the common themes that I heard from the beginning of this is getting involved. I don't think any of us just sat there and were tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, how about you? We need somebody to fill in." Maybe the initial part started as what are your interests, but we've all gotten ourselves involved and continue to get involved, and that's how we've evolved into the position that we're in. So would you all agree with that getting involved, putting yourself out there and making yourself available is a big thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And asking for help and identifying a mentor or two to help give you some guidance and direction, but then also becoming a mentor to others as well.
Yeah.
I think that's that bridge from past, present to future. That's really how we have to do it. And anybody who's listening, I really encourage you to get involved. I feel that no one looks out for physicians than other physicians, and there's no one better to look out for osteopathic physicians than other osteopathic physicians. So we need each other, and it's gratifying, and I think it's going to sustain us, not only as a profession but personally. So I would really encourage you to, when the call comes out, pick up the phone and email back.
Absolutely, because the more perspectives, the more points of view we have. I mean, because we all have our own experiences, our own background of one's has their own strengths and weaknesses, and the more of those we can pull together, it's going to strengthen our organization. It's going to strengthen us individually and collectively. So absolutely. So please contact POMA and get involved.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining me and helping to make this podcast series a success. And as our third episode, we're excited to see where this goes from here. We've got some great topics planned for you in the future. One of them being our staff and what they've contributed to POMA, and that the list of things they do might turn into its own podcast series because it's so numerous. But we'll be looking forward to seeing you at our next episode, and hopefully we'll be seeing you at some point in person in the future once we pass a little bit more through this crazy pandemic world. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you around.